Bata Manga.
I am Tanako. I will be 50 years old this year. My son Takashi and I have been supporting each other in our lives. When Takashi was in my belly, I also had a husband. I thought we would have a happy life with my loving husband and our newborn baby. But reality was different. Tanako, I'm taking your husband. Sister? What are you talking? He's sleeping right next to me. He snores a little too loud, but he looks cute. I can't believe it. He's cheating? Cheating? Aren't you so brazen? It was his mistake to marry you. He should have married me. Mom and Dad also said that husband is too good for Tanako. Let him be Aiko's husband. No. So you'll have to sign and turn in the divorce papers. Bye. My sister always took what I had. My parents only loved my sister who was good at what she did, and I was treated poorly by the rest of the family. I gave up love from my blood family, and I wanted to start a new family. I wanted to create a warm bond there, and I thought I would marry my husband and create a happy family. But my dreams were shattered by my sister. 25 years have passed since that sad event, and my son Takashi is now a respectable member of society. It was not easy to raise my son as a single mother, but because Takashi fully supported me, we were able to lead a happy life together as mother and son. Takashi supported me with housework and also studied hard and got accepted to a national university. He even received a scholarship and it cost almost nothing for tuition. You really grew up to be a good son. Takashi is your mother's pride.
That's too much, Mom. I want you to have an easy life as soon as possible. That's why I studied hard in college and was able to get into a big company. I'm gonna return the favor from now on.
Takashi, how lucky I was. I don't have a husband, but we were the happiest family in Japan. I thought so from the bottom of my heart. But the evil hand that threatened such happy times was approaching me. 2 years after Takashi entered the workforce, he brought his girlfriend home. I was a bit surprised because I didn't think Takashi would be someone who would choose a girl like that. But I trusted him because it was my son's own decision. And then he told me he wanted to marry the girl, and at the meeting of two families, a terrible thing happened.
These are Yuri's parents.
Nice to meet you. I'm Tanako, Takashi's mother. Oh, Tanako, long time no see. Sister, what are you doing here? You're still stuck up, aren't you? It's because I'm Yuri's mother, of course. Why? What a coincidence. You're so naive to think it's a coincidence. Of course not. Mom and Dad told me your son turned out to be too good for you. I thought I'd take him. But it's not easy raising a kid, is it? You don't even know how good they are until they're old enough. So I thought, why not let him grow up more and only take him when he starts to produce profit? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Luckily, we had a girl. If he becomes my son-in-law, he would basically be mine. Takashi, I hear you're the most promising newcomer at the big company. How lucky of me. I'll have a good retirement. What? Why did Takashi end up with your daughter? Oh, didn't you hear? Yuri is carrying Takashi's child. What? A boy has to take responsibility now that he has a child. No way. Is that what you're after? Did you set this up? What's wrong with that? It's your fault you had better children than me. Who do you think you are? Of course, after he's married into my family, you'll never see him again. You understand? My sister's high-pitched laugh echoed in my head like a nightmare. I thought my life would continue happily after Takashi got married, but the unexpected event left me in despair. But even though they have a baby, there is no difference in the fact that Takashi and Yuri love each other. I couldn't oppose their marriage just because of me and my sister's problems, so I couldn't say anything. And on the day of the wedding, I desperately put on the face of a mother celebrating a marriage. My sister is sitting in her seat with a victorious look on her face. I was so sad I wanted to disappear toward the end of the ceremony. It was time for Takashi to read a letter to me.
Mom, thank you so much for raising me all by yourself. I know it was really hard to raise a child by yourself. Despite that, you raised me without complaining, which I think is really great of you. You must have been surprised at my marriage with Yuri, because to you, Yuri is your sister's daughter with your ex-husband.
The audience froze when Takashi said this. I couldn't understand what was said for a moment either, and it took a few seconds for my brain to start working. Hey, Takashi! What are you talking about?
Mother-in-law, or should I say aunt, because you're my mother's sister. Did you think I didn't know about this?
Takashi looked straight at my sister. In his eyes, there seemed to be a light of justice to judge evil.
I saw my mom's photo album once. That's when I saw a picture of you, Aunt, and a picture of Dad, too. My mom had told me about you two. Looks like your habit of wanting everything that belongs to Mom hasn't been fixed yet. I can't believe there's such a difference in humanity, even though you're sisters.
My sister's face grew redder and redder at Takashi's words, as she got up from her chair with a loud bang. What are you talking about? You are my adopted son-in-law, who is going to support Yuri and the baby. You should know your place.
Yuri's baby is not mine.
What?
Aunt may have arranged it, but unfortunately, I'm not falling for the same trick as Dad.
What?
I think she tried to get me drunk, but I'm a strong drinker. On the contrary, Yuri got drunk and fell asleep. Well, she didn't seem to have any memory of it, so I made up the story, as she might have wanted to hear, but...
No, that means...
Right. Then whose child is the baby in her belly? From here, I'd like to talk about Yuri's friendships for all of you.
From there, it was Takashi's one-man show. Yuri's sleazy friendships were revealed, and all the participants in the venue turned their eyes white at once. The wedding was, of course, cancelled. The sister and my ex-husband's past became public, and the fact that they had invited so many people from the company to make themselves look good backfired, and my ex-husband resigned from his position at the company. They had been fighting every day since then. Yuri had no savings at all because she was planning to rely on Takashi to have a child. So in order to raise the newborn baby, my sister had to go to work. But my sister, who grew up spoiled, had no experience in society, and she spends her days being yelled at and used by seniors who are younger than her. Thanks to Takashi, I will be able to spend my days with a clearer mind than before. He has grown up to be a fine son, and I am truly a lucky mother.
I have a sister who is a little younger than me. We fight a lot, but she was so cute to me. Maybe because we don't have a father. She never went to cram school, but she's smart. Goes to the national stadium when she runs, wins prizes when she draws, and I'm proud of her. I wanted to send her to college with my earnings, but she said she wanted to work early herself to make things easier for her mother. But her boyfriend, who followed her around whether she broke up with him or not, forced her to stay in the relationship, as she later told me. She ended up getting married as soon as she graduated from high school. She seemed happy when she would sometimes come home with her kid, but one day, when my sister came home, I thought it was strange that she wore long sleeves, even though it was hot. But when she rolled up her wet sleeves while doing the dishes, I discovered that her arm was covered in bruises. I was shocked. "Hey, what happened to your hand?" I asked, and she jerked her body for a moment at my words, then mumbled,
realized how easy you were on me. When a guy actually punches you, you really go blank and black out.
She said. I couldn't take in what she was saying for a moment, but soon realised it was a bruise inflicted by domestic violence. Me and my sister were in the kitchen, and my mum was relaxing in the living room. Come over here for a minute. I pulled her by the hand and took her into my room and urged her to tell me everything. Then, I found out that my sister lives in a public housing complex with 2 rooms and a kitchen, but she's being forced to live with her in-laws where 6 people live. She's sometimes made to stay at her in-laws' house, but since it's an apartment, there are not enough rooms to begin with, and not a lot of space to live together. After that, she told me that she was beaten and kicked by her husband and stepfather. My sister, though strong-willed, is short and has a slender body. On the other hand, her husband's family members are all tall and strong. Getting beat by people like that was like an adult against a child, no matter how much she tried to resist. Speaking of her father-in-law, he has been moving from job to job due to his drinking problem, and now he works part-time at a mahjong parlour. Her mother-in-law was such a bum that she had a lover and worked at their snack bar, and asked my sister if she wanted to work there as a hostess. Sister-in-law 1 is a mistress of a right-wing leader and a hostess, and whenever something goes wrong, she shows her tattoo to settle the matter. Sister-in-law 2 is a hostess and also appears in adult videos. According to her, this was a step for her to become an actress. As she spoke, the things she had been holding back began to flow out of her with tears. I was stunned as I listened. Finally, my sister said,
I can't live like this anymore,
she said in a strained voice. Incidentally, it was the first time I had ever seen my sister crying as a grown woman, and I was so angry inside that I couldn't hold it, and I involuntarily put so much force into my fist that it shook. Furthermore, my sister discovered that her husband had a large loan after she got married and only gets $60,000 out of her paycheck. From there, she has to give $30,000 for her husband's allowance and $30,000 on living expenses, not including food, and she can barely afford to eat 1 meal a day. She wore lots of layers of clothes, trying not to worry me and our mother, but her legs, hands and face were thinner than before, and I knew something was wrong. But I thought she was just having a hard time raising her kid, and had no idea this was happening. I showed her the forum with toxic parents because I had started looking at different forums on the internet after my sister's baby was born. You're brainwashed. If you can't beat them with force, beat them back with your head, I told her. And when I told her, but if you don't have the energy to do that anymore and you want to get out now, I'll do whatever I have to do to break it off and go beat up both of them. She felt like she had someone she could count on, and there was life in her eyes, and from there, she went for revenge. When she checked off the box that said spouse, she was told she was being provided for, but then she explained the meaning of a spouse. To those who laugh at the news of the death of a middle-aged man due to shock from excessive bleeding, she explained the meaning of hemorrhagic shock to them. Anyway, she would sneer at them every time they laughed at her. They would almost punch her when she talked back at first, but as she kept the smile on the corner of her mouth. This is why I hate kids who don't know anything about the world. I took a pathetic woman like you, and you have the cheek to talk back to me. Get out. And my sister was kicked out. But when my sister came home from my parents' house, she decided to record everything and get revenge on these guys. So she took the recorded video, tapes, and recorded conversations of abusive language on the drive recorder along with her kid and took it to the lawyer on the spot and sued. By the way, I paid for all the lawyers. I wanted to get in there and mess up the husband and his father. But we both need money to live from now on, and I thought money was the best way to get revenge on that whole family. So I looked up lawyers who were strong against domestic violence and told my sister about them. We not only had evidence from my sister herself, but also from videos, audio tapes and so on, so they were completely screwed. When my sister told her husband that she was divorcing him, he was furious, but I had evacuated her to our parents' house. So one time, when her husband, "You got to be kidding me. You think you can divorce me? Came and lashed out. I'd already handed over the evidence to the lawyer, and I had no intention of letting her go back to my parents-in-law's house again. Thank you for everything you've done to my sister, and smiled right in his face. He never came back again. My sister won $5 million in alimony, child support and medical treatment from the divorce, including domestic violence and the poor living conditions she was forced to live in. Furthermore, her father-in-law and husband were to be arrested because my sister had reported them for assault and disorder and had all the evidence. She was physically thin and emotionally disturbed because she was living at home with her husband and her in-laws' house. But after returning to our parents' home and the support from my mother, who learned about the situation and being able to live without problems with money, turned her expression brighter and brighter. After the divorce, she started looking for a job while our mother watched her kid. My sister had always been capable, so she found a job at a major company in about 2 weeks. Our mother works part-time and I live at home, and I had a good income, so I could provide for my sister who has a small child. But my sister...
I want to work so that we can live together properly from now on.
So my mother and I decided to support her and help her. She got a job. Money from alimony and medical bills came in, so my sister was trying to move out of the house right away. But it's been a long time since you've been out in the real world, and it's pretty hard to raise a child on your own while working, so you should just stay here a little while longer. When I told her,
I'm sorry for all the trouble I've caused.
She apologised, but I was worried she might get into trouble again out of sight, and that was harder on me mentally, so that was the better option. When my sister first evacuated to my parents' house, she was glad that the water and electricity were not cut off, as she had been living in such a poor environment. She was happy that there was stuff in the fridge, and when I bought her new clothes.
Are you sure about this expensive stuff?
She'd reluctantly say. And when my mother, who is such a good cook, put several side dishes on the table.
Are you sure I can eat this much?
She would ask her hesitantly.
I ate breakfast and lunch today, and now I'm allowed to eat dinner too?
Even words like that came out. It was really hard to see our mother crying secretly, as she didn't realise the environment she was put through. But my sister is now living a powerful life, eating breakfast, working at a company, and taking care of her kid as best she can. Watching her like that made me feel happy. By the way, after that, her ex-husband and ex-father-in-law were arrested, and with the alimony and other expenses, the family's funds ran out in no time at all. I also heard that the store where her ex-mother-in-law used to work stopped receiving customers after the rumours about this incident. I don't want to remind her of a difficult past, so I won't share that information with her, but I hope they all experience the hell she had to go through.
He and I had been dating for 2 years, and even met my parents. We were planning to get married in the future, and every day was happy with him. But one day, I came home from work as usual. He and his affair partner were flirting in the open. The room I always cleaned was a mess, and on the table was an empty bottle of fine wine I had bought him. Oh, what is this? What are you two doing? Oh, this is your dull girlfriend. Pointing at me was a flamboyant woman who looked like she got around.
Yeah. This is the dull girlfriend I've been using because she's got money.
I'm your dull girlfriend? Then, as if mocking me, the woman smirks. Hey, did you know your only value was money? Because you buy everything. I was able to use the extra money to eat good food with him and go vacations together.
What an idiot. She didn't even notice.
Both of them made fun of me right in front of me. I found myself in disbelief, wondering if this was real. I won't forgive you. I'm going to tell my father. What? That's hilarious. Telling your parents? You're like a child.
Seriously. I had dinner with your father once, and he was a real boring and wimpy old man. And you're gonna ask him to help you. I'd beat the hell out of him in a heartbeat. That's hilarious.
What? You should feel sorry for him. You have to go easy on him. Both of you, get out of this room!
Huh? You're the one who leads the leaf?
I'm the one paying rent!
But it's in my name.
Oh, I'm going to take all these designer bags. I look so much better with these bags and shoes than you. You're too dull for that. They giggled and mocked me. I had a good salary because I had a good job. So I bought him all kinds of things because it made me happy to see him happy. But when they said all of that to me, I was so frustrated and miserable that I ran straight out the house and called my father. My father was surprised to hear me crying.
What's wrong, Tanako? What happened?
My father called to let me know that he would be there as soon as he heard the location from me. And about 15 minutes later, 2 black luxury cars stopped in front of the apartment building. From there, 5 young men got out. Then they opened the door of the other car, and a man got out. I cried as soon as I saw my father's face. Then I cried and told him what he and that woman had done to me. As I was crying, my father, as well as the young people who came with me.
They're not gonna get away with hurting the miss.
They're not getting away with this with a scratch.
And they were angry. Then my father and the young men went into my apartment. I didn't want to look at that scene again, so I stopped in front of my room. The young man opens the door with all his might and yelled as they walked in. They were already gone from the living room, and they were in the middle of having sex on the bed where he and I used to sleep. As soon as the woman saw my father's young men, "Ah! Who are you people?" She cries out and wraps the sheet around her body. Next to her, also freaking out,
Who the hell are you guys?
they both kept screaming. I told you I'd tell my father, didn't I?
Huh? What are you talking about? He's not the same man I met the other day.
He's my father too. He's from my mother's second marriage, but this man is my real father. Then my father gave him a sharp glare.
It's you, huh? You're the one who hurt my daughter.
What? No,
From the young men surrounding him in my father's presence, he seemed to know what kind of man he was, and he turned completely naked and pale. Then my father declared an order.
Hey, take these 2.
No! I'm sorry, Tanako, forgive me, help!
The young men put duct tape over their mouths and carried them out of the room. And they were put in a wagon that had been prepared at some point in front of the apartment building, as they both sniffled and cried.
Help, I beg you!
Huh? You said you were going to beat the hell out of him earlier, didn't you? Then my father and the young men glared at him.
I didn't say that. I didn't say it, so help me.
I ignored him. I hope you two get a good punishment from my father. My father is a Yakuza, but he doesn't do anything to people and is actually a really kind person, including the young men. He left my mother after I was born because he was the head and he wanted to make sure that my mother and I wouldn't be looked at with cold eyes from society. My mother remarried and became happy, so I saw my father often and kept in touch with him so he wouldn't be lonely. The young men were also really protective of me, calling me miss and pampered me. So I told my father to just scare the living daylights out of them and nothing more. I also thought it was a little bit uncalled for to tell my father, but I would have completely cried myself to sleep if I was alone and I was so frustrated. After that, I contacted one of the young men and I was relieved to hear that they were both released. I asked him what kind of punishment they got, and he told me they gave him a beating as a punishment. They then took the 2 deep into the mountains and dug a hole right in front of them. Apparently, both of them passed out in fear. And when the 2 woke up, they took them to the office and asked if they still want to be punished or pay me alimony. They both got down on their knees and apologized, crying, saying they would pay me as much as they could, so they settled for 10 million each. As for him, he collected the money by borrowing as much as he could with the cash he had on hand, and when that wasn't enough, they agreed to collect the other half from the company's payroll. The woman didn't have any cash at all, so she borrowed as much money as she could, but that wasn't enough, so she got a job at the bathhouse.
I've been pretty gentle with them.
My father said. And he's right. If a man like that gets serious, they wouldn't have gotten out alive. The young men.
You sure, miss? I can hurt him though.
They said that, but I can't go that far. No, that's enough. I mean, it wasn't good of me either. I involved my father in my problems with that guy, even if it was the spur of the moment.
It's not your fault, miss. I can't forgive him as the same man.
The young men comforted me. After that, a mutual acquaintance of ours talked to him because they worked at the same place, and since the acquaintance hadn't heard anything about me from him recently. You don't talk about Tanako recently. Did you guys break up? When a colleague asked him casually.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
He screamed and passed out, bubbling from his mouth. It must have been really traumatizing for him. When I dug a hole in a mountain, they said they weren't actually going to bury them, but if a group of men did that to me, I'd be scared too. I heard that Akko is desperately trying to make money as a bubble girl. She can't leave the business, no matter how she hates it, until she pays off her debt to me. There's no way she can see his lover either. She probably regrets it now, although it's too late. I should have taken revenge on my own, thinking it was a bad idea to get my father involved in this. But I was relieved those two who laughed and mocked me so much, they got their punishments.
At the time, I lived at home with my parents and my father was away on a business trip for about 3 months. During that time, it was just my mom and I. That night, around 9 p.m., there was a knocking at the door and someone frantically turning the doorknob. Then they started ringing the doorbell like crazy. I didn't hear about Dad coming home, but maybe he came home? Or is it a thief? Then I asked my mom. Hang on 1 second. Let's see who it is from the window. She opened the curtain slowly before looking at the yard. There was a girl, balled up in front of her house. There's a girl! She's balled up in front of her house! A girl? No way! We opened the door to check on her, but she slowly lifted her head and looked at us. We were shocked when we saw her face. Her face was a bright red and her shirt torn to bits. There were almost no buttons and her underwear was hanging on by a thread. Her skirt was half off as well. We looked and immediately could tell what had happened to this girl. Mom, is this... Doesn't matter. Just go. Get a blanket. Okay. Hang on a second. I was doing my best to cover her up when she grabbed a hold of me and wouldn't let go. My mother then called the police. I kept rubbing her back, trying to calm this trembling girl down. Shh, it's okay. You're safe now. Don't worry. I told her. Maybe she felt safer. She began bawling her eyes out. The police showed up immediately, but the officer who showed up happened to be a man, so... No! She screamed and began crying even harder. My mother and I rushed to calm her down, and the officer immediately requested backup for a female officer. He also called an ambulance. The female officer on scene went to the hospital with her, but she wouldn't let go of me the whole time. Later on, we found out that she was indeed raped. At first, we thought that she must have been targeted by someone random at night and she just ran to our house for help, but reality was worse. The aunt of the girl showed up and... I'm so sorry about my niece. Thank you so much for saving her. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just kept thanking us. Allow me to explain everything. Everything that had happened to her. According to the aunt, that girl lived with her mom. Then one day, the mom met someone and she started dating him. That man was just a regular office worker and very kind. The girl was quick to let her guard down. The relationship between her mom and the man went well, and she remarried. The girl was happy too, but one day, when the mom was out with some friends, the stepfather started talking to the girl. She had eaten the food that her stepfather cooked for her before she got to sleep. She was asleep on the sofa when she was woken up by the stepfather. And then,
Hey, I'll show you how to feel good.
he said. She was in middle school, but she had really trusted him, so she said, sure. The stepfather started touching her all over. She thought it was normal since he was now her dad, and she just let things go. At first, it was just light rubbing, but things started escalating. She thought it was a little weird, but by then, she couldn't talk to anyone about it. It wasn't like he was threatening her. He even acted normal around her. Aw, he's such a great dad, her friends would say. She thought that maybe she was the weird one. She was also worried that her mom might be upset after learning about this. She just accepted everything that he was doing, and she started feeling like she was something dirty. She thought that if she told someone, they would hate her. A little while later, her mom, who was very kind, passed away in an unfortunate accident without knowing anything that was happening to her daughter. After the funeral ended, he came home. He attacked her in the night. After listening to what the aunt was saying, my mother and I couldn't hold back our tears and started becoming nauseous. Oh, how could that happen right after she lost her mother? How dare he? He's being charged, right? The aunt shook her head regretfully at me. I can't do anything to that man. If I did, I would have to make her see him time and time again in court. She would have to talk about everything that happened to her in front of an audience. He settled out of court. But he raped that innocent girl time and time again. He just paid it off while he continues to live life comfortably. I was so upset. I don't want that girl to be put through any amount of pain anymore. She's all that's left of my sister. That's why I decided to take her in. The aunt was unable to have kids because of a condition she had when she was young. She had a boyfriend, but she had given up on marriage, so she was fine being single for the rest of her life. She hadn't had a boyfriend in years and lived alone. She's probably terrified by any man at the moment. That's why I thought that it would be best if I take her in. I don't want her to go to a foster home, and I'm not going to allow her near that rotten human. She was bawling. Is the girl okay? She's in the hospital while receiving round-the-clock mental care. I can work remote nowadays, and I don't want that girl to leave my side. Whew, I feel a little bit better after hearing that. I'm glad there are still people who care about her. I have nothing but thanks for y'all. She ran away, but I'm so glad that she stumbled into your house. We didn't do anything special. We let her know it was fine, but she just kept thanking us and gave us some money before leaving, when it was just us again. I don't know, this feels wrong. The guiltiest of them all is just roaming and living life while she's hiding from everyone. Seriously, I can't wait for karma to catch up on him. That's how this ended. However, right around the time that she left the town, some of the people in the area were confused by her disappearance. They immediately found out what he had done. Apparently, someone had seen her running out of the house and coming to our house as well. People started vandalizing the home that they had lived in.
You're not human. Shame on you. He's just a devil wearing human skin. How could you attack an innocent girl like that?
He was being yelled at while just walking around the streets. Of course, his company was quick to catch wind as well.
Just quit already.
He quit real quick. No matter how much she was shaken down, that girl is gone. The only person left was that man. If he left the house, he was screamed at. If he stayed inside, his house was vandalized. He became depressed and slowly went mad. That girl had gone through worse though, and no matter what happens to that man, I cannot sympathize.
My name is Junichi Ono, 32 years old. I've been playing sports ever since I was a student, and I have confidence in my physical strength. Working out has always been my hobby, and I've been working as a gym instructor for the past 6 years. The salary is not very high. Compared to my friends from college who work in companies, I'm still not popular with women because of my low salary. Well, I'm living doing what I love, so it's no big deal. But then, even for someone like me, I got a girlfriend 6 months ago, and we got married in no time. We're newlyweds in love right now.
Hey, your birthday's coming up. Do you want to go out for dinner?
Oh, great, it's my birthday, but I'll treat you.
Ugh, don't bother. It's my treat.
It's been a while since I went out to eat. I'm looking forward to it. Ayano was always there for me, kind and supportive, a truly devoted wife.
Wait, what happened? Did you get hurt on the job?
Oh, this? I think I got caught at the doorway. There was a nail sticking out. Gotta be careful.
Are you okay? Be careful. You fell in the bathroom the other night, right?
Yeah, there was some shampoo spilled on the tile. I really have to be careful. I've been getting a lot of injuries lately. They're minor injuries, but I've got to be real careful with my body, since that's what earns me money. I can't worry Ayano. I have to get myself together. But then again, it was strange how I've been getting injured a lot in the last few days. Just then.
Hey, let's meet up in front of the intersection on Main Street for your birthday today.
Okay, I should be done with work by 8 p.m.
I'll get you a present.
I'm looking forward to it. Alright, see you later. And a few hours later, I woke up in a hospital bed. What? Where am I? Ono-san. Junichi Ono-san, can you hear me? Ono-san, can you hear my voice? Past my blurry gaze, a doctor and a nurse call out my name. I couldn't quite grasp what was going on, but slowly I began to make sense of it. Apparently, I had been in a car accident on my way to dinner with Ayano. Tests showed that I had damaged the ligaments in both legs in the accident. I was forced to live in a wheelchair. Without it, there wasn't a way I could survive. If I can't move my body, I'll have to resign from my job as an instructor. The doctor told me to take my time and see how it progresses, but there was no guarantee that it'll get better. What am I supposed to do from here? I continued to undergo painful rehab and treatment, but I never got back on my feet. Ayano often came to visit me in the beginning, but the number of days she came to see me gradually decreased. She'd come in now and then, and when she did, all she did was talk about alimony. And before I knew it, Ayano stopped coming too. After a month, I finally got used to the wheelchair, and I was discharged. I haven't been able to contact Ayano since then, and she didn't show up at the hospital when I was discharged either. I had no choice but to return home alone. Wait, is the lock broken? This is my house. Who are you? What? No, this is my house. Oh, are you the previous resident by any chance? Previous? I just moved in here the other day, and a woman told me to give this to the man who was the previous tenant if he came to visit. And I received an envelope from the boy. Inside the envelope was a divorce decree. No doubt, it was in Ayano's handwriting, and the reasons for the divorce were outlined on a separate sheet of paper.
No matter how much rehab you go through, your leg will never heal. I'm still young and want to have children in the future. I sold all the furniture in the house for a share of the divorce assets. Alimony was used to pay for my moving expenses, so please divorce me for my own happiness. And please don't contact me again.
I can't believe Ayano, who's so kind to me until now, was thinking like this behind my back. I don't know. I just don't care anymore. Without a place to go, I became a homeless man. I was wheelchair-bound, but the people around who felt bad for me were kind to me. It's been 5 days since I managed to start living homeless. I still haven't filed for divorce papers that Ayano left behind. I was shocked that Ayano, whom I had trusted so much, was gone, taking my house and all my assets. I was in shock, and it was hard to get my feelings in order. I can't live like this forever. I'm running out of money, and I might have no choice but to die like this. As I was thinking that, Junichi Ono, right? Oh, thank God I finally found you. I'm finally able to meet you. I was looking for you. Thank God, I'm so glad you're alive. Who are you? I'm actually the driver who got you into the car accident. I'm very sorry about that. I've been told by Mizuhara-san, the president of the company, to guarantee you enough money for your family to live on for the rest of your life. President? My name is Matsuo, of Mitsuhara Corporation. What? that major company? Mizuhara Corporation? I am the exclusive driver for the president of the company, and I was on my way to take him to work on the day of the accident. The accident was a possible suicide, and it's still under investigation. What? Suicide? It's a long story, so please get in the car for now. Without knowing what was going on, he took me in the car and drove me to a house that was set up for me. And there's even a maid. After that, Matsuo-san helped me with various things since I was in a wheelchair. He even provided me with a place to work. I joined Mitsuhara Corporation as a disabled employee with the consideration of the president. I was taught and entrusted with clerical work that even a wheelchair-bound man like me could handle. I spent my days happily immersed in my work. As I worked, I even began to dream of creating an environment where people in wheelchairs like myself could work vigorously in the future. During that time, the day of the trial arrived. Ayano was suspected of several crimes. I heard all the stories about Ayano from Matsuo-san that day I was rescued from being homeless. Ayano over-exaggerated the shock I was in and raised the alimony fee to a ridiculous amount. After receiving the alimony, they suddenly lost contact with her, and I heard that Matsuo-san and the president became suspicious and started investigating about me. Ayano's charges were my attempted murder and marriage fraud. That's right, Ayano almost got me killed. The accident was captured on the dash camera of a cab that happened to be on the other side of the road. There was footage of me being pushed by someone. Ayano was quite distraught during the trial.
I loved you. Tell them there's no reason for me to kill you. Please.
I can't trust her. I was put into a very expensive insurance policy, and if I die, it was made so all the money goes to Ayano. I didn't know anything about this insurance.
Stop talking nonsense.
Quiet!
Ayano was later arrested for attempted murder and marriage fraud. What surprised me was that she had orchestrated all the strange injuries I was getting before the accident. I shook with fear when I heard the story. I was her fourth husband, and she had killed all three of her husbands in accidents and received insurance money from them. I thought such a heinous incident was just a story in a drama or a movie. I never thought I'd experience it myself. 7 years later, my company was finally established as a subsidiary of Mitsuhara Corporation. More than half the employees are physically challenged. I became aware of the reality of the physically challenged, which I had never paid attention to until I was in a wheelchair. I sincerely wanted to reach out to such people, like the president who reached out to me and helped me. I want to continue to work hard.
I'm Maya. I've been married for 3 years and I live with my husband, Masaki. I have certain allergies. I get allergic symptoms when I eat food with artificial broth. I especially can't eat chemical seasonings. That's why I haven't been able to go out and eat out on dates since Masaki and I started going out. We would have lunch in my room and even dinner, so it was out of the question for us to celebrate our anniversary at a fancy restaurant. Lately, I've been thinking that I'm healthier than I used to be. I feel like I'm detoxed and I don't catch colds as easily. I'm really sorry I am the reason we couldn't go out to eat.
Don't worry about that, Maya. Your cooking is delicious. I'm a lucky guy.
Thanks. Yet, Masaki stays with me without complaining about it in any way.
It's a lot of work just to cook every day. I'll do the laundry and whatever I can do.
He says this helps me with a lot of the housework. I was grateful to be blessed with such a husband, and I lived happily every day.
By the way, it's Dad's birthday next week. We're having it at my parents' house, and my mum is asking me if you'd like to join as well. What do you think?
I haven't seen your father in a while, so let's go. I just won't eat. There's a reason why my husband is so considerate to me. When I went to my husband's parents' house, shortly after we got married, I visited them at the mealtime and offered to help in any way I could. The kitchen in this house is my castle, I was told, and couldn't help with anything. But when I sit down, you don't do anything, do you? And I was scolded. The food my mother-in-law cooked was Japanese food such as meat and potatoes and simmered dishes. I had told her about my allergies beforehand, but it would be rude to ask for confirmation, and I wasn't watching the cooking process.
So just to be safe, I pretended to be engrossed in the conversation and decided not to touch the food. I thought it might be rude, but I didn't want to cause any allergic reactions or anything like that here, so there was no other choice. But in the end, my mother-in-law got annoyed that I didn't touch the food and...
You're a rude wife, and I've never heard of an allergy to broth in the first place. If you don't want to eat my food that badly, you don't have to come.
After saying that to me, she said to my husband,
You're always welcome to come alone. You're staying the night, right?
My father-in-law intervened when things were about to get awkward. I apologized for not being able to eat, and the situation was settled. But since then, they contact my husband frequently asking him to come. My mother-in-law told him not to bring me along. I couldn't figure out why she suddenly decided to invite me this time, but I was honestly happy that she invited me, so I decided to pick out a gift for her as well. I have a surprise to tell them too, so I'm sure they'll be happy. With some trepidation, we headed for my husband's parents' house.
All right, take a seat. I worked harder than usual today.
My mother-in-law greeted us with a smile upon our arrival. My father-in-law was a man of few words, but he was happy when my husband gave him a gift. My mother-in-law treated me normally too, and it looks like it was a needless worry. I was relieved.
Maya can't eat artificial broth, right? I'm making broth from seaweed and dried bonito flakes today, so it'll be okay.
I'm sorry for causing you inconvenience. The food my mother-in-law took the trouble to make for me. I decided to eat it without question. My throat! I can't breathe! I dropped the bowl I was holding in distress as my husband noticed the sound of my breathing. I can't breathe. When I thought I was done, my husband, who knew how to deal with this, held me in a comfortable position. But the symptoms progressed, and the rash started. If this continues and causes a seizure, it could be fatal.
Are you okay? Let's go to the hospital now. I'll get the car.
My husband ran to get the car, which was parked in a nearby coin-operated parking lot. My mother and father-in-law were left in the room with me, and then, as if my mother-in-law had been waiting for this moment, she began to say,
It's the same bonito broth they use everywhere. Maybe you're not allergic, but there's something wrong with you. Or maybe this bonito broth is defective.
It's not the time to be saying that.
You shut up. We're celebrating. I can't stand it. You're that weak, huh?
My father-in-law has my back, but my mother-in-law, she yelled at me mercilessly, still being unable to move.
We might never be able to see our grandchildren because of this girl. Don't you know the saying, 3 years without a child, then divorce? You're supposed to back off. I don't want to see you die here, so just go to the hospital and die.
In a daze, I looked at my mother-in-law and saw my husband behind her, looking like a demon.
Mom? Is that how you thought of Maya? There are some things you shouldn't say out loud. And when you asked me to bring Maya today, this is what you were trying to do.
No, Masaki, I didn't mean any harm. I just wanted you to enjoy the food.
There's no excuse for something like this. Besides, the whole reason we came here today was to report Maya's pregnancy. I thought it would be a great present for Dad.
What? You're kidding.
Yes, I was pregnant. I was still in the early stages of pregnancy, and I was starting to experience morning sickness.
I don't know what I'd do to you if something happens to Maya and the baby. Masaki, I called the nearby general hospital. They said to go in through the emergency entrance. Anyway, you need to hurry. Thanks, Dad.
And so I was rushed to the nearest hospital. While we were on the move, my father-in-law had given them all the details, including the fact that I was pregnant. A doctor from the obstetrics and gynecology department was also on standby. Thanks to that, I was able to undergo quick and proper treatment. Fortunately, neither I nor my baby were seriously harmed.
Maya, thank God. I was really scared because you said you couldn't take medicine.
My husband was crying next to the bed.
as if all the tension released when I became conscious. After a while, my father-in-law came. My mother-in-law, who seemed to insist that it wasn't her fault, didn't come.
Dad, I'm sorry. But tell Mum she doesn't have to come. And tell her we're not letting her see our child. Yeah, okay. Maya, I'm really sorry this happened to you.
And my father-in-law bows his head deeply. He gives my husband a small sum of money to pay for the treatment.
Please take care of yourself and give birth to a healthy child.
And left after saying that. 8 months later, I was able to give birth to a healthy baby boy. My mother-in-law pestered my husband with phone calls, but he ignored them all. And one day, she even came directly to the house and rang the doorbell insistently. My husband was home on maternity leave to deal with the situation.
I'm calling the police. I don't care if you're my parent or not.
After being yelled at, my mother-in-law left. My husband told me I never have to deal with my mother-in-law again. My father-in-law told me he felt the same way. My father-in-law, on the other hand,
I'm going to leave her when I retire.
After a few years, they divorced, and he started living in the countryside, which he had always wanted to do. I was relieved when I didn't hear from her for a while after getting addicted to a host club. But when she ran through her savings and even got into debt, "Hey, let me borrow some money." And she would frequently come to our house asking for money. Upon discussing it with my husband, we moved far away when our child entered elementary school. 6 months after we moved, my husband was transferred. He didn't have to change jobs, and me and my son started to get used to our new life. And above all, my mother-in-law wouldn't be coming anymore. Rumor has it that my mother-in-law, who was saddled with a huge debt, ran around crying to all her relatives, and one of them runs an inn. She's forced to work there without pay until her debts are paid. Well, at least she gets fed and shelter from the wind and rain.
My name is May. I am 27 years old. Right now, I am pregnant and I am due in about 2 months. I am full of anxiety every day because it's my first baby. But my husband Yusuke takes care of my health every day, so I am able to stay calm.
I wonder if it will be a girl or a boy. Either way, I'm looking forward to it.
We'll have to decide on a name soon.
I've already decided on a name. I have both male and female candidates. I'm looking forward to it every day.
I see. Then let's go with the name you decide. We were both looking forward to the birth of our child. I had no idea at the time that my husband would turn out to be such a changed man. 2 months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy close to my due date. We named the child Kota. As my husband had suggested, Kota was a long-awaited child of ours. My husband and I loved him very much. Even the smallest gesture was adorable. However, there were times when we felt something was off while raising him. When I took my son to play at a children's center when he was 1.5 years old, the other kids would say, "Mom, look, I'm going to do this." But Kota just says, and he doesn't speak very well. When the discomfort was growing, thinking there was something off, Yusuke also seemed to be concerned about it and started asking me more about it as he looked it up on the internet.
Kota doesn't talk very much. When will he call me Dad?
Yeah, even the other kids are able to say Mom and Dad. I've been a little concerned about that too. What should we do? Should we go see a doctor?
See a doctor? That makes it seem like Kota is sick. Maybe he's just growing slow. Shouldn't we take him to a health center?
Yeah, let's take him to the health center for a consultation. He might have an intellectual or developmental disability, and the earlier he's examined, the sooner we can follow up with him.
There's no way my kid is disabled.
We don't know yet. I'm just saying it's a possibility. While my husband angrily leaves the room.
Let's go to the hospital to clarify everything and think about it. If my kid was disabled, there's no way I could raise him.
He blurted out. My husband had loved Kota up until now, so I was shocked. But I didn't immediately believe his words and tried to think that I just misheard him. When I went to the health center for consultation, the staff told me that there might be something wrong with him and recommended a hospital visit. I went to the hospital that day and had it checked out. When I reported this to my husband, he hardly seemed to listen to me and didn't seem interested. Later, when I went to the hospital to get the results of the tests, my husband, who had seemed uninterested until then, suddenly appeared at the hospital.
They're going to check up on him today, right? That'll make everything clear.
Yeah, you're right. Although I was concerned about my husband, who seemed uninterested up until now, we decided to listen to the results of the diagnosis.
As for the test results, he has an intellectual disability after all. Let's support him using different methods upon further examination.
I see. What are the different types of support?
Rehabilitation to encourage growth, sharing concerns with families who also have children with disabilities, and so on. We can also have a nurse or other healthcare professional check on him at home.
Would that help a little? Will he be able to talk?
It depends on the individual, but he will grow slowly with the help of various people. He'll be able to talk better here than he can now.
I was anxious until then, and I was relieved when the doctor told me about it. But my husband was listening with a doubtful look on his face beside me.
Our child is disabled, after all. Yes, he is. But with parental support, will you take him in? I don't want it.
Both the doctor and I could not believe our ears for a moment when we heard these words. Without any concern, my husband kept talking.
I don't want disabled kids. I can't raise them. What should I do in that case? Do I just leave him in an institution or something?
What?
Is there any facility that takes care of disabled people?
Wait a minute. What are you talking about? Are you kidding me?
There is no such facility. Please, discuss the future of your child's medical care with the two of you, and decide on a course of action. What? We're going to keep living together from now on? No way. If you intend to continue to raise this child, you'll have to manage on your own.
After saying that, my husband left. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to raise him after being told he had a disability, but he's still my beautiful child. I was stunned by my husband's words and actions, because I had never thought of leaving our kid anywhere. The doctor, who couldn't bear to look at him, introduced me to a counselor at the hospital. I was able to learn about various information such as rehabilitation methods, day services, counseling centers, and subsidy programs. I did not return home from the hospital, but took Kota back to my parents' house and told my parents in tears about what happened. They were surprised, but accepted me and Kota. They prepared everything we needed, including daily necessities, and they treated Kota as warmly as they treated me, and they were as affectionate towards Kota as I was. After that, I divorced my husband. I didn't want anything to do with him anymore, so we split our savings 50-50, and I even refused child support, although he didn't have any intention of paying it from the first place. Then life began to be hectic but peaceful with my parents, myself, and Kota. Thanks to the hospital and fostering, he grew up and is able to communicate better than before. That alone was enough to make us happy. But then we discovered that Kota had a certain talent. It was piano. Kota touched the piano for the first time in kindergarten and surprised his kindergarten teacher by immediately playing songs he heard for the first time. With Kota's motivation and his kindergarten teacher encouraging him, he started learning the piano, which he enjoyed and became very good at it. When he entered competitions, he started winning gold medals and even national championships. Now, Kota is 16 years old. He is now a bit of a celebrity, as he is even asked to perform in concerts. Then, my ex-husband suddenly paid a visit to our house.
How are you? How's Kota?
What are you doing here?
I heard Kota's good at the piano. I bet he's making a lot of money from concerts and stuff.
What are you talking about? I haven't forgotten that you told the doctor you didn't want Kota 14 years ago.
You're lucky. No, I just panicked.
You just panicked? You didn't even contact us since then. What's your intention?
Well, it's not like I have an intent, but I'm a little short on money.
Is that why you contacted me? For money? You work, don't you? What did you spend it on?
Gambling.
Gambling? You had it coming, didn't you? The minute you run out of money, you're gonna come crying to us? No way.
But you're living comfortably on Kota's money, aren't you? Kota's my kid too, so can't you share a little bit?
I'm saving all the money Kota earns so I don't have to worry about anything in the future. We live frugally with my own money. I don't do whatever I want like you.
You're saving up? Yes. Then take some of that money and share it with me.
I don't owe you anything. What are you talking about?
But he's my son, I have rights. I'll support Kota too, and you'd be better off with me, right?
I was fed up with him and quickly called the police. As he was being taken away by the police, Kota heard the commotion and came out of the house. But then when he saw my ex-husband,
Don't ever come back!
he shouted. I don't know if Kota remembers my ex-husband, but there's no way I could forgive him for abandoning my beloved child just for him to suck up the honey. I'm just happy to hear him play the piano and laugh. I'm so grateful to Kota for giving me this happiness, and I'm so grateful that he was born.